the guys on the enemy team, and then one of our guys disconnected, and then another one of our guys disconnected, and we were playing 3v5, and we were still winning, and I was talking like mad shit because we were winning at 3v5, and enemy team got super pissed, and then like basically all unfriended me afterwards.
Damn.
I was like, Alpha, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Why are you hitting yourself?
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, the stream is live.
I'm just saying, if you get smacked around in a 3v5, don't be mad when you get shit talked.
Well, I have to be mid. It's a 3v5.
Just don't get smacked around in a 3v5.
It's only 3v5. Why you have to be mid?
Yeah, I actually had I had a friend who was pretty big rager at the game, but one day that turned from just raging at the game to he actually told one of my other friends to like kill himself and all this different stuff, and it's like all right, bro, like you can get mad at the game all you want, but the second you turn on someone, like I'm not defending you in the slightest. Like,
I mean, okay, is that cross the line? Sure. But at the same time, like, is your friend mentally damaged? Are they actually going to be like...
Okay, the difference was, it wasn't just, like, crossing the line, like, oh, kill yourself, like a short little like that, which I easily could have let go. It was, you are a stupid frat boy idiot, go fucking kill yourself, I hope you die, like, all, like, a whole paragraph of stuff like that. And it's like, it crossed the line big time.
So, like, they just went nuclear.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
I've been called a 400-pound retard before because I was playing.
Damn, dude, you look like you're getting really close to 400 pounds. You need to lay off the Twinkies, man.
I have to say, like, you've done a great job losing the weight. Playing all that Celeste.
Yeah, no saggy skin or anything. Yeah. You could never even tell. I just. The things that I've been called playing League of Legends. Yeah. The things that I've called other people playing League of Legends.
The best thing is, like, in high school, when I was really good at Call of Duty and, like, playing that a lot, having people rage at you and go, like, oh, you probably live in your mom's basement. You're probably in your mom's basement right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm in high school. It's kind of where I live. Like, that kind of makes sense.
They fucking hate losing to high schoolers, though. Like, even at the league tournaments at the college that I went to, or not the college that I went to, but there were league tournaments at a college here in town that I would go to as a high schooler. And we would just fucking wipe the floor as a team of high schoolers with all the college kids. And they weren't, like, outwardly, like, douchebags to us, but you could tell they were pissed. It was great.
I mean, yeah, you'd be like, you live in your mom's basement. I was like, nah, I live in your mom's basement.
Hey!
Hey, what's the Twitch? Is it twitch.tv/LOLA Podcast?
That's correct. Yes. By the way, we've been streaming the world's longest introduction that I am not going to clip out of the video, so...
Wait, don't make sure you start Zencaster. Start Zencaster.
Oh, shit.
Do not forget.
Zencaster's fired up. We're good.
So,
holy fuck.
We get to keep the
when
intro
you cut that,
guys.
They'll get that nice little, that clip. I was talking shit about college kids who are bad.
Yeah, if you watch the YouTube. Because I'm not clipping that. It's in there. So, yeah. Hey, say like, so what did your friend say again to your other friend?
I don't know if I want to say that, like, for the Zencaster. I mean, he told him to go kill himself. Am I missing some kind of joke here?
I'm playing dramatic piano. You can't hear it.
I was like, this is somehow way funnier to Blake than it is to me right now.
I'm the only one that can hear it. It is really funny, though. It's like, he told him to kill himself.
Over a game of League of Legends.
Okay.
Can we make one of those? Can we make an anti-flaming PSA?
I already made an anti-tilt self-hypnosis session. I could make an anti-flame
Well, we
PSA.
can keep the content train rolling.
Oh, yeah, we could totally do that.
This is Little Billy. Little Billy told depressed Steven to kill himself in a game of League of Legends. and Steven did kill himself later that day. Riot Games went to Billy's house and charged him with what the fuck do you charge the cyberbullies with? I don't know, cyberbullying. And then Congress passed a new thing called Stevens Law, so that if you flame someone in a video game, you're going to fucking jail. You piece of shit, Billy, or Jimmy, or whatever the fuck.
I think we'd have to be. It would be called involuntary manslaughter. I think.
This is
right
unit. This is Unit CR1967. He's a replicant. Michael Argent killed him. Right before the podcast.
Nobody even gets that. And this is an audio show, Blake. Nobody even gets that.
I know, but you
joke.
have a fucking Blade Runner haircut. I can't help it. Your hair is terrible right now.
It's not terrible. Come on, man.
I don't know. You have to be real careful with that.
Who the fuck are you to talk about hairlines?
I don't have to worry about it.
Fucking self.
I am clearly not a replicant.
Oh, man.
So, okay, here we go. League of Legends Honest Podcast.
I'm ready.
5. Hey, everybody. Welcome to League of Legends Anonymous, episode 187. Right? Yes?
Right.
That is
All right.
correct.
Sweet. Episode 187. So this week, we are talking about excuses that hold you back from climbing or progressing or even enjoying League of Legends. With me is Michael, Ponderous Sea Lion Largen. What's up, dude?
Yikes.
All right. And also Alec Wormlax. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
So, guys, the reason for the season on this episode is I was contacted. We had a video that was out there. And this is not intended to be a call out. I'm actually going to give him props because I think this is super cool. But the guy who was getting coached in Sam's coaching video that's on the YouTube, I called him out a few episodes ago. I said that basically his attitude was not going to be one that he's ever going to get any better because he's not willing to admit that he was making mistakes. And, you know, he had a reason for everything instead of like understanding what Sam was trying to teach him. Right. And that watching that video was somewhat painful for me because I'm like, man, he could have done it like a lot better. Right. It could have been so much more effective. And he contacted me out of the blue on Discord. And he noted that I called him out very accurately. And he talked about how he really needed that. And that his climb, he started climbing again. He made some changes. He's tried to do some of the things that Sam talked to him about in that video, and it's been helping a lot. And basically, if I were to boil down what was a very long and constructive conversation into like a couple of snippets, once he stopped making those excuses for his play that were holding him back and like dropped his ego to the curb and like let himself, like gave himself permission to get better, he did. Right? And that is really props to him because that's super hard to do. Right? It's super hard to just like throw yourself bare and be like, okay, no, I do have mistakes that I make. I do have glaring weaknesses in my gameplay and I have to improve those in order to climb rather than like make soft excuses for why you didn't do something or how you know, maybe it wasn't that bad that I did fill in the blank thing instead of really trying to like drop down, humble yourself and go. Right. And
as an incredibly humble summoner, Blake, I've never personally had to do that in order to get better, but
man, I don't think you could keep a straight face for more than 5 seconds through that bullshit.
Bro, fucking watch me.
yeah.
I'm as humble as they come. Alec, you're not Aiden. You're not fucking buff as shit like Aiden.
Unfortunately,
You don't sound like a girl either. I don't know what we're talking about.
Don't bring
Keep going,
the female
Blake.
perspective, Alec. So anyway, you know, a huge part of coaching is like you have to respect and believe what the person is trying to say, and that was big deal. And it clicked, and it took him a while, but he got there, and now he's climbing. Right. So I thought, you know, this is something that's not just a problem for him. It's a problem for a lot of people. It's like being able to swallow that jagged pill, right? And making like soft little lies that excuse things that you're doing poorly, right? And so like, how is it that we can focus this episode on like, what can we do to help people rip back the curtain on themselves, right? So, first off, I guess we should start with like, what kind of excuses are we talking about? What are they? Why are they bad? And how can you like fix them, right?
Okay, excuse number one, I'm not bad, I'm just XYZ. Here's how you fix that excuse. You are bad. Ta-da! And now you can work on not being bad. So once you accept that, it becomes a lot easier. Like you're not stuck in your elo because of any specific thing. It's an amalgamation of things. You're not, I would be X rank if I did this thing, and this thing better. It's never 1, 2, 3, 5, or even 10 things. It's like 50 things that you do wrong. And that's good for you because you can fix only a few of them and see a huge spike in your performance. But if I ever see someone who's in like silver say that I'm only stuck in silver because of this one thing or these two things, no, that's never the case. You're always there for a much larger reason than just one or two things that you're doing wrong.
No, that's fair. I think that is a legit myth that a lot of people believe is like, well, if I would just be better at CSing, or if I was just, if I didn't have such shitty teammates, or if I didn't fill in the blank, right? And regardless of what the myth is, it kind of shares this like comfortable excuse, and the excuse is there is an unsolvable problem that's not me, so I don't need to get any better, right? Yeah. I can just move on to the next game, and maybe that problem won't be there that game, and then, because the problems are all external, it's not me, Yeah.
And it'd be like setting a goal for you to lose weight, and you say, you know what, I'm going to start going to the gym. I don't go to the gym. But then you get home and you eat like shit, just like always. And yeah, you might lose some pounds because you're going to the gym, but you're never going to really lose that weight unless you start having a healthy diet, having a healthy mindset, and just going to the gym isn't enough. It's the same thing with League. You can't fix one thing and it's a cure-all to everything.
Well, sure.
Or if you say, I want to get in shape, and then you go to the gym, do 5 push-ups, and then you're like, oh, that was a great workout, and then you go home. Like, that's not going to solve anything either. And a lot of people think that it's that way in League. Like, oh, if I go from, 50 CS at 10 minutes to 60 CS at 10 minutes, I'll improve. And it's like, maybe. I mean, doing 5 push-ups a day is better than doing 0 push-ups a day, but it's not actually going to solve anything in the long run. So,
yeah. Well, so let's throw that out there because, I think you guys have a good point. It's like, yes, work ethic is one thing that's huge in improvement, right? You have to find out the problem, put actual work towards fixing that problem, or at least focus, right, on fixing that problem to get better. But more of what I'm talking about in this scenario is like these like fake external problems. Like it would be like going to the gym and being like, oh, they don't have a machine for my body type. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, yeah. Well, the personal trainers here aren't very good. Something like that, to where it's like, I'm just going to keep being non-effective because something outside of me doesn't enable me to do that. I'm like, well, there's a bench right over there. There's dumbbells right over there. There's about 1 million exercises you could do, but you're refusing to acknowledge the fact that you have a solvable problem, right?
There's 1 million goddamn exercise videos on YouTube. Hint, hint, if you know what I'm referring to, that you can also use to get better.
So, that being said, like, here's some ones that are my favorites that are like complete total myths. My teammates are keeping me in whatever elo, right? And I'll tell you this, you could lose, and that what's comfortable about this myth, what's not, that the thing that keeps feeding it and making it feel true is that can be true for 1, 2, or 3 games, right? You can lose a game because you have shit-ass teammates. That happens at every elo, right? Somebody can feed hard mid.
Not diamond. It doesn't really happen in diamond.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah,
in
no.
diamond is really good. So
Never happens in
I've
diamond.
never personally seen that.
Yeah, never.
So that was hard sarcasm, by the way. But yeah, I mean that can happen. Like anybody can feed that crap. Anybody can ruin a game, sure. Or like somebody can feed a Fiora 10 kills in laning phase. That can happen, right? And if it does happen, yeah, you're probably going to lose. And it probably wasn't your fault. Fine, right? That's fine, okay? But that you're not in silver 3 or gold 4 because of that. You may be in gold 4 50 LP instead of gold 4 72 LP because of that, right? But it is not the single factor that is going to determine your games, right? Because, I mean, remember 30, 40, 30. 30% you're just going to lose no matter what you do, and it's because of people like that. That is true of all ELOs, right? Whether you climb or not is that 40 in the middle, whether you win more than half of those 40% games, right?
Yeah.
So that's one that, you know, and it's convenient and it's comfortable because you can shift the blame off of yourself, right? So you guys have any other ones that you can think of that you've heard of excuses that are kind of like that one where you're like, hey, it's something outside of me? Like a lot of times people blame the jungler. I see that one a lot.
The big thing that I see is blaming, like, they're just outside of, like, their skill. Like, maybe they're in silver, but if they just got to gold, like, they know they could play with those people if they just got there. It's like they blame, like, especially, I see this a lot with support players, and, like, Blake, as a support player, you probably get this a lot. It's like, you can climb as support, but there's a lot of support players who want to say, oh, well, my ADC is, like, in silver. Like, they just never, like, know what to do. It's like, yeah, like, your silver ADCs aren't going to be as good as a gold ADC, but there's a silver ADC on the other side of the team too, right? It's not like you're playing against someone who's crazy good on the other team against your ADC. So the one I, like, think that people need to drop is, like, this feeling of, like, they can't carry out of certain roles because they're too reliant on their teammates. And I guess that kind of plays into, like, a whole of, like, what you're saying of, like, your teammates. But I think specifically I see it a lot with, like, support trying to...
That's a good one, because if anybody's ever golfed before, right, there's something in golf called the invisible donut. And the invisible donut, yeah, it's real, trust me. It's the area right around the hole, right? There's a depression right before the hole, and then it lifts up as it goes into the hole. Why is that? Because when people bend down to pick up their ball out of the hole, they put 1 foot down right next to the hole. They bend over and they pick up their ball, and all their weight is on 1 foot right by the hole. And as people do that all around the cup all day, it creates like a little lump and depression in the ground. So whenever you putt, you can miss a putt that you should have made because the ball will hit like a small invisible hill and just stop right before the cup, right? And to a certain degree, silver 5, gold 5, plat 5, diamond 5 are the invisible donut of those elos, right? And people are like, well, I just cannot get out of silver 5 because everybody is basically bronze and silver 5. Oh, I can't get out of gold 5 because everybody is basically silver in gold 5, right?
I can't get out of Diamond 5 because everyone in Diamond 5 is mentally...
That's a whole nother wheelhouse to open up.
Hey, no, Riot's solving that, 2019. We can talk about that if we run out of time because I do actually want to talk about that too. But maybe next week if we don't. One way or another, we will talk about that because I've got a lot of thoughts. But, you know, yeah, it's like an invisible donut because it feels like you need more momentum to break out of silver, like the gravitational pull of silver 5 or 4 than you do out of like silver 3, 2, 1, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything's just smoother past that point. And you know what? There's probably some truth to that. Because I think you have to play better to get out of Silver 5 than you do to get out of Silver 4. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I
but
would agree with that.
you don't have to be a gold player to get out of Silver 5.
No.
Right? You don't have to be plat to get out of Gold 5 or Master Tier to get out of Diamond 5. You just have to be better than the average, right? And if you are better over the course of the season, which is literally hundreds of fucking games, you know, any one individual. See, here's the thing. You got to think of it as if I play 1,000 games in a season. I mean, you might not play 1,000, but let's say you play like 400 games in a season or something, right? If you do that, does any one game truly matter? No, it's like the trend or the average of your games is what matters. And outliers they'll be thrown out over time, right? Statistics will normalize your play, right? So, yeah, in the long run, I mean, you can't think of things in like short runs.
Yeah,
I mean, all long runs.
I have a friend he's in low gold right now. He's been in plat before. He plays probably like a plat player, but he's in low gold, and anytime he comes to me, he's like, oh man, I feel like I just like, even though I'm good enough, I can't quite get out of this elo. And it's like, well, how many ranked games do you have this season? He's like somewhere between like 20 and 30. It's like that you have not shown any kind of average for your season. Like, and I understand it. He's working full time. He can't play League all the time. Like, it's just that he has.
That's when you buy a boost. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, he has this feeling like just these few games should push him to the rank he should be at. And it's like, I think with the player he is, he would go higher and have an average trend of moving up if he played enough games, but he just doesn't. So you have to, like, I've had a lot of people who say, like, oh, I can't get out of this elo, and they have like 20 to 30 games. It's like, what? That's nowhere near like enough to get an average trend for what you're really at.
And let me just tack something onto that, because I know that there's a lot of people that play this game that have like important shit to do with their lives and they're busy. They're not all fucking Dr. Pepper drinking neckbeards like me. If you only have a limited amount of games that you can play per week, you better make the most of those games. Because if you're only going to get to play like 5 to 10 games a week, and you're playing those 5 to 10 and you're tilted as hell, that is not going to be good for you in the long run. That is not going to help you win. If you have the less games that you have, the better you have to play per game, because you're just not going to climb. Be like, if you have a 50% win rate, you'll climb. But a 50% win rate over 1,000 games versus a 50% win rate over 20 games, you're going to get more elo in the 1,000 games. So play better if you're going to play a small number of games, because you're going to have to if you want to actually climb. And if you just can't climb because you don't have enough time, then that's one thing. But yeah.
Hey, Michael, can you get like a hat or something? Because your
can you stop looking
your
at my fucking
1960s
hair?
Grease hair is really distracting. I can't concentrate or take seriously any of the things that you're saying, because I'm like, he's gonna drive in a fast car right up through the sky.
I'm going to drive a fucking car into the sun, bitch. Watch me. All right?
All right. So
break into a musical number about why everyone's bad at League of Legends.
We've talked
for
about
me.
this. But here's the other, like, here's the passive detriment to making these excuses. Jesus Christ. Here's the passive detriment to making these excuses, is that you create this, like, defeatist mentality that you have no power to correct, and then you keep your focus on it, right? Like, oh, my teammates are bad. Oh, it's always X, Y, and Z thing happening. Not in my control, and I'm upset about it, and I'm playing bad, and I'm not enjoying the game when I play, because this self-fulfilling prophecy I've made keeps happening, right? Mm-hmm. If my team wasn't so damn stupid, if we didn't try to do that Baron, if blah, 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 if my team knew how to close out a game, right? These are all like defeatist mentality excuses that immediately put you on tilt, and you will play worse because you are thinking negatively about your teammates instead of positively about yourself.
So I actually got asked this last night by a toxic member of the community. They'll know who they are.
That shitbag will know who he is.
Yeah, but his question wasn't about it was about his teams being bad and him not being able to carry, but it was more centered around him not being able to communicate with his teammates in a way that they would listen. And I actually didn't have a good answer for him besides you just can't control what people are going to do in solo queue. So he was saying he would tell his jungler, okay, I just got mid sums, you can come mid in the next 4 minutes and it's a free kill. And the jungler just wouldn't come. Or, hey guys, let's all group mid now, and his team just stays bot and keeps feeding. To me, it's similar to my teams are all bad, but it's a little bit different because it's a little bit more of a proactive approach on the part of the person complaining about it, because it's yeah, I know that they're bad. I'm trying to tell them what to do, and they're still not doing it. So what do you guys have to say about that? Because I didn't really have a good answer for him on that.
My first inclination whenever someone is talking about communication in game is that you just you end up, if you're trying to communicate that much, you're spending too much time thinking about how your team is playing and what they could be doing better rather than yourself. Because everyone in that game, all 10 players are making mistakes on top of mistakes on top of mistakes, and you are a defender just as much as they are. So if all you're worried about is their mistakes, you're not focused on yourself, and you're making mistakes without even realizing it. So, even though, yeah, you're probably right, you have a flash mid down, your jungler should definitely come and take advantage of that. But if he doesn't, it's only on you if you don't win that mid lane matchup. The big thing I talk about too, it comes into kind of play with people blaming jungle and stuff like that. Jungle is a what's the word I'm looking for? Jungle is a help to you. It's not a right for you. It's something that you get in your game, and every once in a while it comes and helps you in bad situations. But
it's
in
basically
technicality,
the stranger from Fallout.
Yeah.
You take that perk, and occasionally you're in vets and somebody gets shot by a dude in a trench coat. That's your jungle.
Yeah. Yeah. But technically they don't have to help you at all, and it's only on you if you don't win your lane without that help.
And technically, the stranger is probably more likely to help you than a silver jungler.
Very true.
I mean, let's be real here for a second. That perk is worthless, and it's still probably more likely to help you.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think there's not a good answer to there, because there is no way to make your teammates communicate better or listen to you better. The better thing is to play better yourself, and that will make up for that.
I think there is a way, but it's not 100%, right? And it may work, it may not. You just kind of have to roll with it. So I've been playing with Ashley, and we've been doing duo and silver, where I'll just be the ADC and she'll support. And pretty much any game that I get reasonably fed in, if I do 3 quick directed pings on somebody's screen, then they will usually follow whatever it is I say to do. But they have to be 3 pings, so it gets attention, not 6 pings. 6 pings means you're an asshole and nobody's going to follow whatever it is you ping, right? But 3 is hey, pay attention here, right? Ping, ping, ping. Oh, okay, cool. And people will do that, right? But it has to be on their screen, because you can't account for anybody's map awareness. It doesn't, map awareness isn't even a thing in low diamond. It's definitely not a thing in gold or silver or bronze. And kind of half-assed might be a thing in plat, but probably not. So, you don't ping dragon 3 times. You ping somebody, then on the way to dragon, then dragon. So they go, oh, there's a path here, right? That will make people more likely to follow whatever it is your calls are. Also, you have to be the fed person in any kind of low elo to make calls or nobody's going to follow you.
Yeah.
Like if you're the 0-8 misfortune, they're not following your calls, bud. Even if they're right, it doesn't matter. You're better off just not making calls at all and trying to do whatever the team's doing.
Yep.
So, okay. Back to kind of excuses for, play, right? I was listening to an audiobook. Like Brad hooked me up with his audiobooks, right? And I was listening to this audiobook about a kid who's doing like a real-time strategy deal, and they're like, his problem is that he refused to commit units because people would die if he forced them into battle, and he didn't want anybody to die. And his advisor says to him, you're playing not to lose instead of playing to win.
Is this Ender's
What was that?
No, it wasn't.
What was it called? Because I think what was that called? Because I know I've read Ender's Game, and I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of another book. What's it called? Because I might have read it.
I guarantee you haven't read it. It's going to be an obscure lit RPG. And it was called Liar King, Tower of Blood, or Tower of Babel, Book 2.
Nah, I read something that sounds not like that, but it was very similar to that. But anyways.
But yeah, this general's like, hey, you can't run a war or run a battle if you are afraid to lose. If you're afraid to lose, man, if you're afraid to truly commit, then you're not playing to win. You're not fighting to win. You're fighting not to lose. And anybody who's ever been in a fist fight, try to fight not to lose. You will get your fucking ass kicked. Right? So that's the whole point. Is he's basically, what you're doing is you're not taking advantage of opportunities that are there. You're not willing to make any kind of sacrifices, even when they're necessary. And you're not really, truly, fully committing to what your character could be doing, right? So let's talk about that, because this comes in a lot of forms, right? And this one is my favorite. I was on Reddit the other day, and somebody was like, I'm an ADC in silver, and you know what really pisses me off is whenever my supports go full idiot, super aggressive, like they're goddamn X special or something, and they expect me to follow up on everything, and it's like, God, you're just gonna die, and that doesn't support my passive play style. I'm like,
that doesn't support me being a quivering pussy in the bot lane, so I don't like it.
But okay, so here's the problem. Like, let's say that you pick somebody like a hyperscaling Vayne or a Kog'Maw or somebody who doesn't have, or Twitch, that doesn't have a super strong laning phase, right? That's fine. They don't have a strong laning phase. So you probably don't want to do just full hard trades like all the time, right? Because you're not going to win those, right? So what do? Do you play passive and never do anything at all ever besides CS from the safest possible distance?
Why would I play anything but Ezreal if I didn't want to do that?
Or
when I play Ezreal, I don't have to play the video game.
Yeah, that's the one that drives me the craziest.
Go AFK and land.
Is Caitlyn. And the Caitlyn's that are like, I like to farm from 650 units away from the minion I'm shooting. And it's like, you're playing this champion wrong, because you're not taking advantage of your own inherent strength to harass the opponent, right? Instead, you're taking a champion that's good at something and making them safe or passive. And where the myth is here is that passive play is good play, right? That's a myth.
But Blake, I was on my favorite stream, and they told me to die less. Bjergsen said to die less when I play.
No, my favorite is
I died less.
But Froggen or Reckless or whoever pro player is considered to be a passive player, and they're really good. Okay, keep in mind, passivity in terms of the LCS is, are you on the scale of 0 to 10? Are you a 10 or are you a 9.9 or a 9.8 in aggression? And if you are a 9.8, you are comparably passive to the people that
Calculated
go 10.
aggression. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's all calculated aggression. Do you think that if you were horribly out of position, that Reckless wouldn't kill you with a Vayne if you were a Lucian? No, he's going to kill your ass if he can take advantage of that. And then not only is he going to scale on you, but he's going to stomp you in the early game too because he got up on items. Right? So
Twitches can beat Dravens in lane if the Twitch plays well enough and the Draven plays badly enough. And people don't realize that. They just think of matchups. I have won every shitty matchup top lane with Tryndamere. I've beaten Teemo 1v1, I've beaten Pantheon 1v1, I've beaten Renekton 1v1. I've won every shitty matchup that you can imagine on that champion because I played it better, or because I took the advantages farther than my opponent, or because I gave up CS in the early game and started Doran Shield, but then I knew my attack windows well enough to where I could make up for it later.
Okay, great.
You can win any matchup if you play well enough.
Stop right there, because I want to. That is one of the points that I do want to actually hit on. What is the difference between scaling and passivity in your mind?
Scaling is specific and focused. Passivity is just being a bitch, honestly. Like, if you're a passive player, you're not working towards a specific goal. You're just not being aggressive because you're scared. When you're playing to scale, you're still looking for opportunities to go in, but you're accepting the reality that your champion is weaker in the early game and that you're going to have much harder windows to hit than the enemy champion. And because of that, you're playing more passively. But if you're just being passive for the hell of it, you're just not going to do anything. You're just going to be useless, and you're not going to understand why you're playing passively. So, yeah.
Okay, so in that motif, because you kind of touched on this too, what's the difference between like counter picks and passivity in play? Right? Because most people would say, oh, I'm counter picked, so I have to play passive here. What is that right? Is there a problem there? Like, how do you
I'll give a super specific example here. And it's the Teemo matchup versus Tryndamere. Like, when you think of bad matchups in League of Legends, and Tryndamere actually has worse matchups than Teemo, but it's the one that, like, oh my god, Teemo has a blind, and he's ranged, and Tryndamere's melee, and he fully relies on his auto attack, so he's completely countered in this scenario. And yeah, that matchup does suck for Tryndamere. But at level 1, if Tryndamere can actually get close enough to Teemo, you can actually just win the matchup at level 1. And because most Teemos take E at level 1, and your auto attacks are going to outdamage Teemo's at level 1. And so many Tryndamere players don't like, and also Teemo players, they don't realize that Tryndamere has a win condition at level 1, where if you get close enough and you get enough auto attacks off and you get your spin damage off and you use your ignite on them properly, you can just kill Teemo at level 1. People don't realize that. And Tryndameres will play super passive at level 1 because they know they're in a range versus melee matchup. Now, if the Teemo plays it properly and stays far enough back and kites inside their minions correctly, then you can't take advantage of it. But it is something that you can take advantage of if you're playing properly. But then, so say that nothing happens at level 1. Really, Tryndamere's next opportunity of attack is whenever Teemo's blind is down. So say that Teemo blinds you, you walk backwards and you don't take any auto attacks from him, you've got like an 8, maybe even more. I think his blind is like a 13-second cooldown level 1 or something. You've got like a 10-second window there where all he can really do to negate your damage is shoot you with auto attacks and hope that you run away. And if you have a bigger minion wave to fight in, and you know your jungler's nearby, you know the enemy jungler's not around, you have like a pretty solid window to trade back into. But so many Tryndamere players, that's playing to scale because you're still looking for calculated instances of aggression. But so many Tryndamere players just decide that they're in a counter matchup and that they're never going to fight ever. they're not looking for the windows where you can fight. You know, if you're Twitch versus Draven bot lane and Draven drops his axes and then he's got nothing for the next, I don't know how long it is, but like it's at least a couple seconds, you can trade back and expunge and win the trade. But so many players at low elos, they're not looking for that because they just get into their mind, I'm counterpicked, there are no windows where I win this matchup, and that's very rarely true. If the Draven's playing perfectly in the Twitch matchup, yeah, probably.
So you're counterpicked. The Draven, your Twitch, it's a Draven, and you have like a Leona, and they hit a perfect EQW kind of combo with Ignite.
AKA, my support is just going Rambo like X Special. He hit a full combo on the enemy AD carry, but I'm Twitch. I can't do anything about that.
So let's say that you do like 2 auto attacks and expunge. Draven's dead, more than likely. I mean, you've probably killed him with that combination of abilities. But if you've committed to passivity, you're not even going to be close enough to do that.
Mm-hmm. And then your support's going to get chunked to 10% health or more likely die. And then you're going to flame them because you're too much of a bitch to play up. And then you're going to go make a Reddit post about it and talk about that's why you're in silver because your supports are so dumb.
Michael's just ripping off the Band-Aid hard.
Incorrect. I'm sorry. Incorrect.
So, like, the two, like, similarities between, like, we're talking about Tryndamere and Teemo and the Twitch versus Draven. The two similarities we talked about were ability cooldowns, like knowing your windows of opportunity. And that can apply to, if you think about every matchup you go into, you think about, okay, what abilities do they have? How does that affect my champion? How can I play around that? And even in counter matchups, there's those opportunities, and playing around those is a lot easier than people think. They just immediately shut down when they get into a counter pick. They go, oh, this champion's better than me. I can't do anything about it.
So think about it like they're almost different champions. Teemo with his blind up is a different champion than Teemo who just used his blind for no reason. And Teemo with no blind gets shit on by Tryndamere. Like, Tryndamere just wins that matchup. He has no other form of hard CC. He's super easy for Tryndamere to catch with his W. If Teemo didn't have a blind, at level 5, Tryndamere would just absolutely shit stomp him no matter what. The blind is the only reason that matchup is remotely difficult. And if they just use it on nothing, then they might as well not have it. It's going to do, 100 damage to you? And then if you just walk backwards, wait for it to wear off, and then spin on them, they're dead. It's like Blitzcrank's hook is the most obvious example. Like, Blitzcrank without his hook is not a fucking champion at all. Like, he does nothing without his hook. He has one melee range knockup. Or Morgana without her black shield for a different reason. Like Leona's will just like a Morgana will black shield nothing, and like say you're playing the Leona versus Morgana matchup, and the Morgana like gets psyched out by something and then uses her black shield on nothing. But then a passive Leona player, which shouldn't exist but probably does, is just going to sit back behind the minion wave because they don't want to get harassed, and they're just going to play really scared until Morgana's got her shield back up, and then they're just going to keep playing scared. Whereas a smart Leona player would notice that the shield is down and say, okay, I have a really obvious window to attack here, and then they go in and you win the counter matchup. Especially because at low elo, A, people get super overconfident when they know they have a good matchup, and they play dumb, and B, they don't actually know, like, they know why it's a counter matchup, but they don't know how to play it to its full potential. Like, you can win any matchup in silver if you play it better. Like, if you play it well enough, you can win any matchup in silver. Granted, the odds of you being that much better than your opponent, unless they're like auto-filled or something, or you're auto-filled or whatever, is not going to be super high because you're probably, unfortunately, similar in skill level.
You are thinking of the game in the way that we are talking about right now, which is like, they've used this ability, I have a window. If you're thinking that way, then at silver, you are better than your opponent because they're not. They're on autopilot.
Yep.
Right? Like, so you can train yourself to be better. It will make you worse because you're going to have trouble executing it at first, but then you'll come around and you will be better. Like, you just will. It'll be there. Okay, so let's talk about this because, like, The other thing that tilted me more about what that ADC wrote in that stupid-ass Reddit post was, why can't they just wait for me to do the team fights? You know, we'll just get whatever we can get in laning phase, and then I'll carry in team fights, right? Okay, here's why that's a stupid-ass thing to say. Because, number one, you are conceding laning phase every single game as if it doesn't exist.
Oh,
Because
and by the
you
way,
think, go ahead.
playing passively loses you the lane. Just so that we're on this, I want to make this clear before you go into what you're about to say. If you're playing passively, you lose lane because you lose pressure and you lose your ability to do anything. You probably lose your turret first. Surviving lane phase and getting to your late game power spike is the same thing as losing lane. And it's okay to lose lane. Sometimes you do lose lane, but understand that playing passive loses your lane, and it is a strict disadvantage to lose your lane. So go into what you're going to say, Blake. I just want to get that out of the way.
Okay, fair, because that actually gives perfect context to what I'm saying anyway. Basically, what you're saying is, I think I have a win condition in team fights. I think I'm the better team fight ADC, and because that is my personal win condition, I'm going to throw out everything before that. I'm going to give up laning phase, I'm going to be passive, and then I'm going to try to carry later in team fights. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad that you're great at team fighting, and maybe if you are great at team fighting, you will win some games that way. But that doesn't excuse giving away a third of the game to just null, at best null. Right? Because if you're conceding lane, you shouldn't come out with equal CS and equal, like, relative gold to the other ADC.
By the way, lane phase is the only thing that happens every single game. Like, every single game has a lane phase. Every game of League of Legends has a lane phase. And if you're going to give that up, you're giving up a disadvantage in every single game you play. Because not every game has a team fight phase. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. Not every game even goes to mid-game. Sometimes Draven just goes 8-0 and just runs it down the bot lane, and then you FF in 15 before any team fights happen. That happens sometimes. And you just fully banking on team fighting as your win condition, or even just late-game split pushing as your win condition, is putting your team at a disadvantage because you're always going to have to play lane phase, and you can't give it up every game, which is what people who play passive champions want to do.
If you do give it up, you are ill-equipped to deal with a fed opponent in another lane. So what happens if your top laner, or their top laner, goes 3-0, and you are not 3-0 because you conceded bottom lane? Are you going to be able to deal with that top laner? No, you're fucked. You're at the mercy of someone else catching them or that top laner making a mistake. The game outcome is not in your hands. It's in someone else's, right? And that's not
you're going
to be in.
Down CS to your own lane opponent, because more than likely, if you're playing passive, you're getting pushed under your turret, and you're going to miss CS to the turret because everyone misses CS to the turret sometimes. Well, I mean, it just happens.
Even let's just assume even best case scenario for passive play is going relatively even, maybe plus or minus 10 CS, because in silver you just miss CS, so it doesn't matter whether the turret's part of it or not. It just happens, right? People miss CS, so you come out 0 kills because you're not ever sticking your neck out to get a kill. I mean, I guess there's times when it's gift wrapped for you, but you know, you're never taking a risk at all. So you're never going to get ahead. You're just going to be maybe marginally ahead. Well, you can't deal with... Silver is the land of superheroes. People don't lose gracefully. You don't lose...
He means that everyone's good in silver and special.
Right. And
that's why he's saying that.
You know, kryptonite. But, you know, it's a land of superheroes because people don't lose by 1 kill or 2 kills and then the game goes into mid lane, right? Or mid game. Instead, you lose by 6 kills or 7, and it's a butt crushing every time. Yeah. Right? It's just like, it's not a slow drip. It's not a Band-Aid. It's like you were impaled. It's that kind of difference, right?
And this goes back to good versus bad versus even matchups. Guess what happens after the second time that Tryndamere kills Teemo, that matchup goes from a bad matchup to a very good matchup because Tryndamere can just run Teemo down consistently, and there's really nothing he can do about it. Twitch that's 3-0 versus Draven that's 0-2 is a favorable matchup for Twitch. You will win that matchup if you get enough of a lead. And so you have to be like playing to get those leads. Like you have to be actively looking to get those leads because you want to transition from a bad matchup to a good matchup as quickly as you can. Because the longer that you're in a bad matchup, the harder the game is. Because if Draven beats you by 20 CS and 2 kills and gets your tower first, you've just prolonged the duration of him being a bad matchup for Twitch from like the beginning of the game to like 25 minutes to now it's going to be the beginning of the game until you get 6 items because he's going to be so much ahead of you. So look to matchups are not stagnant, and they change based on the game state, and they change based on how well you play, and they change based on what decisions you and your opponent make. So
and,
just because you're in a bad matchup doesn't mean it stays a bad matchup.
Well, and the other reality of what you're saying is you alter your own win conditions because now your only win condition is scaling.
Yep.
You can't outplay. That doesn't happen. You can only scale.
Yeah.
And
to give a reference, I'm going to reference him because I know he can take it. I'm coaching Gensos right now, and he's been transitioning to mid lane as a support main, and he used to play a lot of Galio. And first thing we did is switch him over to Ahri to start learning Ahri and get better at Ahri because every single game as Galio, he was giving up the fact that I'm probably going to be in a worse matchup because Galio is better at playing the later game and helping his teammates. And like first thing I talked about with him switching to Ahri is if you give your lane like the better matchup every time and you're trying to only help your teammates, you're immediately conceding that your lane is an even or losing lane. And that is potentially, like we talked about, like that's just losing the game right off the bat in a silver elo, in a gold elo, in a diamond elo. Like it doesn't matter. You can lose the game in laning phase in any elo. And it's a huge part of, like, yes, you can win games where you come out of laning phase behind, but like, why wouldn't you give yourself that advantage out of laning phase? Why wouldn't you try to be the better laner when, especially in lower elos, it's not that hard to be?
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about the downside of just playing realistically like super passive, and that's a play style. And again, it's not a play style. It's just not. Like, that is a myth. There is no such thing as a good passive play style. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like Johnny hyper aggressive, like,
which you are.
I mean, I am, but I'm not, that's not.
So am I, though. So am I. So.
But
I think we all are here.
But I mean, realistically, though, it is not a viable play style. And it's not from my point of view that it's not viable. It's just logically it's not viable, right? So here's the problem. If you play passive and all you're going to try to do is outscale your opponent, you are a null factor for the first 35, 40 minutes of the game, right? So, because that's when scalings really start taking over, is like 35, 40 minutes in a game, right?
And it's the same whether you're one of those guys that's waiting for your 2-item power spike or your 6-item power spike. You're an asshole either way, and you're wrong. So, I mean, yes, there's a difference between like, okay, I've got all my components for my Ginsu's Rage Blade, so we just really need to wait for me to complete that before I can really be that useful. That's different than like, I can't do anything until I have my Shiv and Infinity Edge. I can't do anything until then. Until I have 6,000 gold. I can't do anything.
I'm going to call Ernie out on that. It used to drive me insane, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, laning with Ernie, because he would play shit like Vayne, and he'd be like, no, I can't do anything until I have 2 items. Like, I have to have 2 full items before I'm comfortable. And then all of a sudden, like, a switch would flick on, and then he would go from being the biggest pussy to, like, John hyper-aggression Wick. Like, that's what it would be, is just like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why don't you do that at level 3? And he's like, well, and Vayne doesn't win any matchups at level 3. And I'm like, if I hook them next to a wall, they're dead regardless of who they are. You know, we layer CC, you shoot them, silver bolts, tumble, they're fucking dead, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that your champion is weaker than theirs. They've put themselves, like, it's like, oh man, I can't kill this guy with an axe, but he fell asleep in that guillotine, and I'm holding this axe, and there's a rope right there. But
He's got a gun, but he's asleep right now. Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. That's like
cut the fucking rope. He's right there. Like,
actually, if anyone like is hearing these examples and still apprehensive, especially about ADC, go watch any Gosu video, because Gosu plays Vayne and Azrael, these champions who aren't always the most strong, like right in the early of the game, and he's constantly killing people at level 2 and 3 because he knows when to play aggressive. Like, if you are an ADC main who right now is like kind of the fence, like, I don't know, guys, like you do need items, go watch any Gosu video. He kills people constantly in lane as champions who should be getting shit on in lane.
And it's not just because he has a support or a challenger support, so don't be thinking that. You can do it with your fucking nuts for brains teammates in silver too, because the enemy team also has nuts for brains. Like,
even if you have Blake as a support, you can do it. Don't worry.
We can make it happen. So yeah, no. Here's what happens though: you play passive, and you just wait, and your win percentage starts to creep near 50% on all of your champions. It's just going to be a 50% win condition on all of your champions because you are a coin flip. You're not carrying your games. You're not really having a positive outcome. You're just kind of there, right? Like, you're on the boat rowing down the river, but you're not
losing
rowing.
your team's games, but you're not winning your team's games either.
So you're just there.
That's not a play style. That's being a rock. So if you want to be a rock, that's how you play the game. If you want to be a human being,
play Malphite,
play a video game. That's actually what Malphite does. That champion is fucking stupid.
100%.
He doesn't do anything. So what? He does nothing.
You will lose.
So, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, like if you're going to be a null factor and you're going to play passive, you can't be upset that your team sucks when you're the null factor in the game because you're not carrying. You're not trying to make it any better or do anything different, right? But, you know, and that's the kind of, I guess, the logical switch is like, if you're like, yeah, I'm a dominant team fighter, so I don't want to lane, well, like, why not be a dominant laner and a dominant team fighter? Why not do both? They're not mutually exclusive.
And when you do that, you're creeping dangerously close into the being a good player category of players, and then you'll just get to diamond, and then what are you going to do? Because you're not going to be able to complain about your silver teams anymore. So just be careful doing that.
No, I'll tell you this, though. Like, whenever I was a silver player, whenever I was a gold player, hell, even plat and diamond, like, I used to hate it when people would lock in Caitlyn. Oh, God, did I hate it. Because they will stand back, 150 years from any kind of engagement range, and they'll just pew, auto attack, right? And then if somebody steps forward, you just basically concede the whole wave. And they're like, it's fine, I'm Caitlyn, I can see us from a million miles away, teehee. And God, it's the worst. I mean, it is literally the worst because you're a goddamn lane bully, not an AFK farmer, and you're fucking AFK farming from 150 miles away, which forces me to start AFK roaming and getting called out for that. Right?
Yeah.
So
and Riot balances like around these things. So like especially on Caitlyn, like she doesn't do great in the mid. Like she's not bad in the mid and late game, but she loses a lot of matchups in the mid and late game because she's supposed to be destroying people in the early game with her range.
Yeah, you're supposed to be fucking oppressive, not oppressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I know the champion can be safe, but that's not what she's intended to do.
There's times to play safe. There's not times to play passive. There are times to play safe, though. I think that safe versus passive is like an important distinction. Neither one's a play style, but like if the enemy jungler is in the area and you're gonna farm from 50 miles away, that's fine. Yeah. But once you see that jungler go mid lane, you better be right back up on their asses trying to shoot them because at that point you're not. It's not a strategic decision anymore.
Okay.
It's just being a bitch.
I think
Like-
if I just change the word to what it actually means, people would stop saying that they play passive, right? If you change the word passive with scared,
Yeah.
that's how you play. When you
Cowardly.
play passive. And if I'm like, yep, I play like a scared little cowardly bitch. It's my play style.
That's just my.
You know, like that's how I roll, and everybody'd be like, "Oh, no, I don't want that. I don't want. You should try not to do that, right? Because that's not a thing." You know, and then you'd be like, "Yeah, you're right. That is bad, and I shouldn't do it anymore." It's an excuse. It's not real, and it's stopping you from getting better because you think something exists that doesn't. Because again, it gets bought into because you watch the LCS and they're like, oh yeah, Reckless is a passive player, really CS focused, really blah blah blah, or you know, Froggen was Reckless not so much in recent seasons, but in the past that was a criticism that you got. Froggen still
criticism got. By the way, notice that phrasing, a criticism.
Sure, I mean
being passive is not a good thing.
Sure. Oh yeah, I guess that I just got to kind of reinforce my own argument, but you know, like Froggen. They've always said, oh, yeah, Froggen's a passive player. Oh, yeah, Froggen. And, I mean, he's one of the best mid laners there is. But he's relatively passive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a 9.8, not a 10. You know, or a 10.5. You know, he didn't crank that shit up to 11 like Spinal Tap. He's just at a 9.8. And that's still real fucking good. You know, He's not letting you get away. He's not.
Froggen is not giving up opportunities or advantages because he's a passive player. That's not what he's doing. It's not like, oh, I could get a good trade on this person.
I think he is sometimes, though.
Player.
That's the thing.
It depends on how obvious they are and how guaranteed this stuff. Like, he's not going to give up a guaranteed advantage that he knows he can win because he's a passive player. And that's what people do a lot in low elo. It's like, you can just catch people out and literally just chunk half their HP bar if you would just walk forward a little bit. Like, Froggen's not giving up those kinds of opportunities. He might give up, like, a trade that would have, like, a 70% chance of going in his favor. He might not take that trade because he's playing a scaling champion. But if something that's super blatant and obvious, like the mistakes that silver players make every 20 seconds in lane comes up, he's going to capitalize on it every time and kill them, despite being a quote-unquote passive player. So,
all right, I've got two more excuses that I haven't got written down, though I think we should realistically cover. The first one being the tower. The second one being, I didn't have any health. Okay. With zero prompting and no show notes, what do you say when someone says, oh, yeah, no, the tower? Is that an excuse? Is the tower an excuse?
Towers don't do any damage past like level 4.
But towers can shoot you. Just like enemy champions, jungle creeps, neutral objectives.
Shoot you, not all of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, tower shoots one human being. That's it. One target.
Did you know there are even some abilities that can make the tower stop shooting you and start shooting someone else?
No.
So when I ping
get out. There's no way.
When I ping to dive the tower as Master Yi and I start taking aggro and you stand behind the minion wave and let me die and then I die and you're like, oh, yep, I knew that was a bad idea. Fucking... If I'm playing Tryndamere, a champion who turns invincible, and he won't go under the tower so I can turn invincible and not get killed, fucking dive, you piece of shit jungler. Stop standing in the tri-bush like a fucking pussy and dive the turret. Fuck.
I've had so much of that. I'm like Tom Kinch. I'm like, I have 2 fucking health bars, like 2 full health bars. I can tank this for a year. I'll just stand right here, being a fish, go kill them, right? And they're like, I don't know, man. It's a tower. It shoots
and
shit.
Okay.
Like,
on the same note, like, if you're a tank player and you start tanking the tower, don't go, oh god, I'm taking tower, I have to get out of tower aggro. I can't tell you how many times as an ADC I'm like, all right, we can dive this, and like the tank is taking it, and they jump out at like 3/4 health, and then I'm tanking it as the ADC. It's like, wait, what the hell? My tank is back behind me, scared with his tail between his legs.
It's okay,
Why
Alec,
am I
I'm safe.
Fucking 200 armor, the 200 armor mount guy who's standing behind the Caitlyn. It's like, oh god, don't shoot me, please. I'm fragile.
I'm a tree.
Like,
I might
fucking
scuff my
Christ.
marble.
I have 200 armor and a way to drop turret aggro, and I'm still not gonna die. Because that's how committed to passive play I am. Fuck you.
I'm a tree. I'm a
Frogging
passive
bitches,
champion.
like,
I'm just gonna sit here and let birds sing on my branches.
tanks aren't supposed to win lane, dude. I don't know if you watch the LCS. They always talk about how weak tanks are in lane. So I'm just going to fucking stand back here and not even play the video game. Because Kobe said something one time on LCS. And shut up. You're stupid.
All right,
Fucking
so I think we can wrap
animals.
up this pretty easily
Okay.
and just like,
I think
towers are passive.
I think we covered it. That is an excuse.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to play around that. Okay, next excuse. I have low health. What do you guys think?
Effective range.
Just run away. Every time. Your health is low. Just don't try to do anything. Just get to a bush ASAP and recall.
I feel
I
like your
can't-
deadpan presentation kind of undercuts the inherent sarcasm I can read on your face. So I feel like I need to say like /S after you just said that. Because people will be like, yeah, this guy gets it. I ran the fuck away. You know,
I don't think that I think the thing is like nothing that I just said fits in my general MO or like the meltdown that I had like literally 30 seconds ago. You know, I think they know by now that if I'm ever saying to play like a passive little bitch, probably sarcasm. By the way, if I ever tell you to play like a passive little bitch as a general rule of thumb, that's sarcasm. Just get that out of the way right now.
All right, so Alec, you were saying effective range. What do you mean?
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact video right now, but we were playing a community game way back when. I was playing Ezreal, and Tyler, you should be on the show, T-Sir Enigma, he was playing a Zoe. We both got chunked out to like a quarter health at the very start of the fight. Our tanks came in, they started engaging, and for the rest of the fight, with almost one shot to some champions, we stayed at the maximum range we could and kept dealing damage into the fight, and we won that fight. And the reason that is because we played it's the same thing that we've been talking about with there's a difference between playing passive and knowing your limits and playing safe. We weren't just jumping right back into the fight to die right away, but we were staying close and helping our teammates to make sure that we were still an effective part of that team fight.
It also ties back into what we were like originally talking about with champion cooldowns. Like, say that you're against what's a good example? You're against a Blitzcrank and Morgana, an AP Morgana, and they've both shot their skill shots. They have nothing to attack you with anymore that like is longer than like 500 or 600 range. If you have long range abilities, you can just keep shooting them, and they can't actually do anything about it because both of their long range abilities are on cooldown. And I know that gets hectic trying to keep track of team fight cooldowns because that's a lot of multitasking to think about. But like, if an obvious cooldown is down, like Blitzcrank Hook as an easy example, and that's like their only way of reaching you if you're a long-range champion, you can keep doing damage. Like they just literally are incapable of hitting back because they don't have any long-range abilities. Like, you can't die in that scenario. If you know where all the champions are and they have no way of reaching you because their shit's on cooldown, you can't die. You can, unless you walk way too close to them, if you're just at max range, you will never die there because they don't have a physical way to kill you. So keep that in mind.
All right. So I think that's a great place. I think we could probably end the discussion pretty close to there. I will say that, like, the only other thing that I thought of is, like, when suiciding is appropriate, right? Because people will be like, well, I was going to die. and that's why I ran. But like, no, that if you know you're going to die, you need to turn around and do as much damage as possible. That is an excuse that people use. It's like, well, I was going to die, so I tried to get away. Well, you know you can't, right? But all right, so shout out from the chat. I was flipping through the chat logs because I don't do that enough while we're actually recording, and I was like, oh, let's see what Twitch chat said. The very first thing that got said by Seko Gecko is Blake is old. It is literally the very first thing in the Twitch chat tonight. So shout out, he wins Twitch chat. That was
truth at its finest.
Yeah, no, I was flipping back. I'm like, what does everybody have to say about all this? Oh, I'm old. Great. Glad I checked Twitch chat tonight. But all right, well, that'll wrap it up. Guys, community games this week, huge success. We played 4 full 5v5 games. The games were actually really competitive because we had enough people to kind of parse out elos. So that was fantastic. And I did cast the game. I did fall asleep during game 2 because everybody was not active enough, and I'm old. And, that being said, plus there was a lot of like DC moments where we had to wait for people to reconnect. But yeah.
These are just excuses, Blake. We just talked about how you
I
can't
just said I'm old. That's not an excuse.
The highlight of everything you just said being that he's old.
It's a fact that Twitch
You're
chat
only
is happy
old
to point out.
Hard stuck mid-30s.
Age is just a number.
Old man. But, so anyway, that being said, I'm glad everybody could come out. Everybody seems to be having a really good time with those. If they keep growing, that's great. I've had a lot of people reach out for coaching. I'm doing more coaching than I've done in a long time. I know Alec is. I know Michael is. So that's fantastic. Keep using us as a resource. We are available. Granted, it's kind of a catch us when you can scenario. Or like with me, it's catch you if you can. Because like if you link me a video and you catch me online, that's great. I can't really like schedule shit because I never know if I'm going to be available to do that. But I'm on most nights around 8 Central, so try to catch me and we can do that. So, all right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, like announcements or anything?
Nope. Don't be a bitch.
I started streaming on my own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/PonderousSealine.
Sell out.
Check that out. Yeah. Sorry to sell out, but
yeah, if you want to see some
it's a pretty
side scroller gameplay.
What the fuck game was that you were playing with the strawberries
Celeste?
and your shit?
That's a good game. Come on.
Yeah,
That's a good game.
I just solved the satellite bird thing.
on,
Right?
man.
So it was a duo stream, technically.
Yeah.
You're bringing in all
So,
sorts of
shut up,
personalities
Blake.
here.
If you want to watch the best member of Lola play the best video games, come to my fucking Twitch channel or don't. I don't fucking need you if you don't want to come. Cut this shit. We're done. That's it. That's episode 187.
We're doing it live.
Fuck you guys.
We're doing
We're
it live.
done. That's it.
Night, everybody.
Oh my god. I like the explosiveness that you bring.
Thanks. I think that this is why I'm
You
the
act like
most
he's like a runner or something. Like, you're a hell of a running back, Michael.
Got some great
explosiveness.
explosive.
God, you just burst through the gap.
It's true though. Like he, like,
that's where we'll end the
and
show,
what you said
right
is so. It's so true what you said that like. I've talked to people who I'm like friends with who listen to the podcast that like they're either like, man, that Michael guy, like he's really abrasive, or they're like, man, he's so like funny and he gets like oh yeah, one of my friends, he's like he won't say anything unless he completely thinks through it. And he talked about one time, he's like, yeah, Michael, like if he talks about the game, he's like very knowledgeable, but he just comes off as so abrasive sometimes.
Michael, he's so knowledgeable, but you can
Is
tell
that
it
a
on the
brand?
inside. He's
Oh,
a total
okay, so
pain.
you
know?
you know, we're talking about like how passive is not a real play style. Is abrasive a personality in that same
Yes.
vein? Like, is
Yeah.
abrasive a real personality? Or is that just me confronting the fact that I have bad social
I
skills?
eventually
You know, which one
have
is
to
it?
stop the recording, and I think that's a great place to do it. So we'll see if this makes the show.
Excellent.
All right. Good night, everybody.